What's up, Internet? Jeff Gretler here, Head Brand Ambassador of SpiceWorks. Thank you for joining us for this very special event today. As you may or may not know, SpiceWorld 2025 is in the books, and the most highly anticipated session this year and every year is the State of IT. That's right, and this year was the State of IT 2026. So today we're joined by an all-star team of data dynamos, Peter Tsai, Jim Raposa, and Derek Brink to have a watch party for the State of IT 2026. How this is going to work is we'll roll that session recording here in a minute, and Peter, Jim, and Derek and myself will be in the chat to answer your questions, give extra content, and just engage with you. So then we'll come back live at the end for some closing remarks. So if that works, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Peter, we'll start with you. Is there anything you want to do to set the table for the State of IT 2026?
Yeah, so it was great at SpiceWorld to deliver this presentation in front of hundreds of IT professionals, and I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us today and thank everybody who's part of this Voice of IT program. If you don't know about the Voice of IT, many IT pros in the Spiceworks community make all of this research possible. So State of IT wouldn't be possible without people taking the surveys, which is what all of our great data and our insights are based on. So thank you so much. If you haven't checked out Voice of IT, please sign up. We got lots of surveys on many interesting topics, and we love to keep doing this in the future.
All right, that sounds good. Jim, how about you? Anything you want to say to set the table?
Yeah, just looking forward to everyone's questions and engaging in the chat. A lot of what I talk about is AI, and just in case AI takes over between now and the end of the presentation, you may end up talking to replicant me halfway through. You'll know it when he uses even more tech jargon than I do. So looking forward to your questions.
Awesome. And last but never least, DB, Derek Brink. Derek, anything you want to say to set the table?
He'll say Kubernetes even more than Jim. That's my prediction. No, it's great. It was great. I think it will still be great, which is good news. A month later, or thereabouts, it's not out of date yet. So I hope you all enjoy it, and we'll see you in the chat.
Yeah, and we're really looking forward to it. We got a lot in store for 2026, and so does IT. So without further ado, enjoy the State of IT session from SpiceWorld 2025, and we will see you after the recording.
Derek Brink, Research Director, Cybersecurity and IT GRC at Aberdeen Strategy and Research, and Jim Raposa, VP and Principal Analyst at Aberdeen Strategy and Research. Good luck, guys.
Thank you, Chelsea. I don't think we can follow up that energy, but we thankfully have lots of fun data and great insights to share with you today. I saw a lot of first-timers in the audience, so maybe you don't know what the State of IT is. Well, for all of you who may have not heard of it, and that's a shame because it's great, it's annual research that we conduct every year where we ask IT pros, just like everybody here in the audience, what their plans are for the next 12 months. So it's kind of a crystal ball where we can look into the future and you tell us what you plan to do, and then we take that and we explain it back to you and surface the insights so that you're helping yourself, really. Right? So 14 years we've been doing this survey. It's powered by Aberdeen Research. We have two of the Aberdeen Research analysts right beside me. So you're going to hear it straight from the mouths of those that worked on the reports. We've been doing this survey since 2011, and we can track the data going back several years, and you'll see us do that a couple of times. And this year we surveyed over 800 IT professionals. And you are here getting an exclusive sneak preview of the report that's going to be released in the near future. It's not live yet, but when it is, it's going to be on spiceworks.com at the URL above. And you might see yourselves in these photos here. I don't know if any of you are here. Who here took the State of IT survey this year? Anybody? I see some hands. So yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You make this all possible, and we're here to share with you. So Chelsea was really excited about conducting some quick polls. We want to talk about all of our insights, but before that, I want to give some nuance around who took the survey. So we wanted to represent IT professionals and businesses of all types and sizes. So company sizes, we had many respondents from small businesses under 100 employees, many respondents in medium-sized businesses, and many in enterprise businesses as well. Most of our respondents were in North America, some in Europe, and we especially wanted to have IT professionals with different titles take the survey. So by quick show of hands, who here is a senior IT leader? Director level, VP, exec, CXO? All right, about a third of you. All right, how many people here are IT managers, mid-level managers? All right, and then who here is an IT support staff person, sysadmin, network admin, help desk? All right, so that reflects who took the survey pretty well. And what we can get out of asking so many people the same questions is seeing how different audiences feel about the same thing. So if we asked, how do you feel about IT spending in your company? We got a lot different answers from IT staff, for example, versus the senior leadership. So we'll share a lot of that with you soon, and we'll offer insights there. Who's the research for? It's really for everybody in IT, whether you're an IT professional in the trenches, business leader who makes the decisions, or you're a tech vendor trying to support all the businesses out there trying to accomplish their technology goals. And I talk a lot to IT professionals in my role as head of technology insights, but Derek and Jim here, they talk a lot with business leaders and tech vendors. So Derek, can you explain why it's important for everybody in IT to know about these insights?
Yeah, well, thank you, Peter. Hi, everybody. Derek here. Thank you for taking the survey, IT pros and also the business leaders. You raised your hands. Thank you. So this is by you and for you. Is that a thing? By boo-foo? Is that what that is? I don't know. We don't let tech vendors take it. You take it, no, you're out. But they bounce you out. But you're welcome here. But obviously they want to know what's going on too because they're trying to serve you and your needs. So yeah, it's good for everybody. And so the analysis and insights that we get from the great information that you give us is for everybody.
Okay, and today I mentioned it's a sneak preview of all the data. There's a wealth of data. We asked maybe 30 questions of all of the respondents, but we want to hone in on 3 of the key themes at SpiceWorld. Yesterday, I came up on stage and talked about the importance of learning about artificial intelligence. And I was in a couple of cybersecurity sessions today that were standing room only, so I know there's great interest in that. We want to make sure to cover those 2 areas in relation to emerging tech adoption, and Jim is going to talk about that. We're also going to talk in depth about technology spending. I know a lot of you want to know how your peers are allocating their budgets. What are they actually allocating the money to over the next 12 months, and how is that changing year over year? Derek's going to go in depth on that. And for me, I'm going to talk a little bit about IT careers because I know that's super important to you. You want to know how the job market is looking, what skills you might want to brush up on, and everybody wants to make more money, right? So we'll talk about that. Before we get into it, some key trends. I'm more of a generalist myself, so I'll describe kind of the high-level insights before turning it over to my friends here. But the high-level insights that we want to talk about today, since we're talking about IT spending and emerging tech adoption, IT spending, there's some good news on the top-line figure. Year over year, we expect IT spending, based on the information that you shared with us, to grow 11% year over year, which is great news for the industry itself. And over half of organizations that we surveyed said they plan to increase IT budgets, and we'll get into the reasons behind that soon. Additionally, IT adoption is now mainstream. I shared yesterday that adoption has doubled within the last couple of years across a variety of use cases. And we'll go, Jim's going to cover that, but it's...
You mean AI adoption? I think I hate to say AI. Are we trying to avoid the word AI? Is that what
AI adoption.
Drinking game. If you say AI, you got to take a shot.
Yes, sorry.
I'll be very drunk.
I know some of you are sick of hearing about AI. But yes, AI adoption has doubled in the last couple of years, and for many use cases, primarily to enhance human efficiency. And cybersecurity is a key driver of spend, as I covered yesterday as well. Diving into the State of IT careers, I have some key data points from both the State of IT survey and some other trusted data sources. But in the end, I think all of us want to know, are we in a good field? Is my career promising, looking forward, and how can I level up my career and increase my chances of being happy in this position on many levels, whether it's earning a good salary or pursuing our interests. So we'll talk about that now. Every year we ask survey respondents whether they think it's easy to hire skilled talent. So this is indicative of how difficult it is to find good workers to hire into the IT department. So this year, roughly half of respondents said it's difficult to find skilled IT talent, which is roughly 2 times greater than the percentage of respondents who said it was easy to find IT talent. So that's good to look at as a snapshot. But as I mentioned, we field this survey every year. So we did the net. We subtracted the difficult responses from the easy responses. So year over year, we see it's getting slightly easier to hire for IT talent. What that tells us, maybe the years during the pandemic where IT jobs were extremely easy to come by and you could command any salary you want, those days might be coming to a close, which is great news for hiring companies, but maybe not so great if you are looking to find a job. But it's one indicator that we should pay attention to. There's other news that we should pay attention to, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is a US government agency, they track data across all occupations out there. They track for over, I think, several hundred occupations. The great news for everybody in IT is the projected growth in the number of jobs that are in our field is expected to grow 9% over the next 10 years, so 2024 to 2034. And it's important to compare that to all occupations. So the growth rate for all occupations is projected 3%. So IT roles are expected to grow at 3 times the rate as the national average. Not only that, the median salary for IT jobs is double that of all jobs as well. So that's good news for sure. I talked a little bit about a cybersecurity skills gap in my session yesterday, and that is shown in our data as well. 92% of all respondents in the state of IT said cybersecurity skills are important in an IT career. So if you want to advance your career, cybersecurity skills can certainly help you there. However, only 64% said that they feel confident in their cybersecurity skills. And I just I moderated a panel on cybersecurity, and when I asked people that raised their hands if they're confident in cybersecurity, I heard a lot of groans. So there's definitely room for improvement there. And I mentioned that we talk to a lot of different IT professionals across the range of professions out there. So everybody thinks that cybersecurity skills are important, from senior leaders to IT staff in the trenches. Perhaps that's why the BLS predicts that cybersecurity roles are going to grow at 10 times the rate of all occupations. So you can see they expect 29% growth in cybersecurity roles going forward. You can see great demand for other IT roles, including software developers, IT managers, network architects, and on and on. Up to this point, I've been sharing some good news. There's some not as good news as well. And I'm going to nuance this, and we're going to go into this in depth. But certain roles in IT are expected to contract in demand slightly for a variety of factors. So if we look at computer support specialists, network administrators, and computer programmers, we see the number of jobs open in 10 years, it's expected to contract by a bit for a variety of reasons. AI is the big buzzword of the moment. The BLS cites that. They also say that organizations who are smaller with minimal IT requirements might find it more cost-effective to hire outside firms to do some tasks than to hire internally. And some businesses might, that are larger, who have a larger IT department, might shift some of the tasks off to their software developers with a shift to DevOps. And it's not all that bad. This is just nuanced information, because if you look at all the roles where demand is expected to contract for those roles, it's not as bad as it seems at first glance. So in this chart, about 1.34 million positions are represented. In 10 years, that number of roles is expected to be 1.3 million. So in the grand scheme of things, a slight contraction will only impact about 50,000 or 40,000 openings. However, The BLS also notes that with each year, for example, with computer user support specialists, there will be 50K openings per year because as people retire or as people shift out of IT and shift to other careers or as they get promoted, someone will need to be able to replace them. So to answer my fundamental question, is IT still a good career to go into? Overwhelmingly, as a whole, yes, there's going to be a large increase, 10% increase in the number of roles out there, or 9% increase in number of roles out there. Some roles are expected to contract a little bit, but there are still going to be plenty of job openings because people are going to retire or switch out of IT. Okay. AI is the big topic. I joked about it up here on stage yesterday quite a bit, but it is very important to consider. When we asked IT professionals, so people just like you, if they thought AI skills, AI prompting skills are important to have in IT, 63% of respondents said yes, they are important or very important. And that's up from 53% last year. Confidence is also growing in AI prompting skills. 49% said that they're confident in their prompting skills, up from 42% next year. And I'd like to, before I turn it over to Jim, to speak more about AI because he's done a lot of research on AI and he's analyzed the data in depth. I mentioned that we talk to a lot of different types of IT professionals. So we asked, do you think AI prompting skills are important for a career in IT? AI skills are more highly valued in enterprise companies, so those large companies with over 1,000 employees versus the small companies with fewer than 100 employees. The senior leaders, like directors, VPs, and CXOs, many more of them believe AI skills are important than IT staff. So we see a gap there, and I think that's an important thing to consider, especially if you are looking for a role in IT. Depending on who you're talking to, you need to know your audience, right? So if you're an IT staff member who is not necessarily brushing up on your AI skills, but you're looking for a new job, know that those making the hiring decisions think that they are very important. There are very many additional insights into AI that Jim is going to inform us about currently.
Thanks, Peter. Right. And then maybe there'll be an AI to help you do AI prompting.
I think there already is.
I think they already exist, yeah. And AIs are working to make prompting less of an issue. But, we can't talk about emerging technologies. We can't talk about modernization. We can't really talk about IT in general without talking about AI. So in the State of IT, we asked, what are the top emerging technologies that businesses are implementing? And so, AI is at the top, 52%. Now, you might look at that and go, that's pretty low. I mean, earlier today at the Dell keynote, they were saying something like 85%. But to put that in perspective, what we asked is about strategic AI initiatives. So as a business, you're doing inferencing, you're using your own data, you're building some kind of custom AI system. Now, to put that in comparison, I have a new AI survey that we recently completed at Aberdeen. If you want to see the results and hear some of the talk about that, which covers both AI, practical AI results. Since we're at that point now where businesses have been doing AI for a couple of years, we're actually seeing actual results of AI implementations. And we're also looked into Agentic AI in that survey. But to put that in perspective, we also asked businesses that are doing what I consider like casual AI, meaning you have permitted use of Copilot or permitted use of Gemini or any of those type of things. And that was 96%, which I think is a much more realistic number. And even then, what are those? I guess the 4% are, I don't know what they're using. Maybe they don't have computers. But just to put that in perspective, when we asked that 52% number, so that's actually still fairly impressive since we're talking about AI initiatives. But still maybe might seem a little low to some people since AI is supposedly massively pervasive and is running everything nowadays. The other interesting thing that I want to point out from this whole list of technologies is that you can look at this in two ways. If I want to have like an angel and a devil on my shoulder, I can have the AI one on the side saying, well, you're doing all of this because of AI. And we'll see in some of our other data, AI is the number one driver for modernization, the number one driver for implementing new technologies. So you can look at this. Yes, automation is one of the top use cases we see for AI. So improving automation systems in general is going to allow you to better integrate, better take advantage of AI in automation. AI-ready hardware, obviously, we want AI-ready servers, AI-ready laptops. Dell talked a lot about that in their keynote this morning. We talked about distributed AI, so obviously improving edge capabilities, putting that compute out where it's needed for AI systems is extremely important. And also containers, Kubernetes, those are the platforms on which AI runs. The first time I heard about OpenAI, I was at a KubeCon like 7-8 years ago, pre-pandemic, where the OpenAI founders were out there talking about how they were building this new AI system on top of Kubernetes. So that's one way to look at it. I can also look at it these are just classic IT modernization things that you just need to do. Automation is one of the #1 IT modernization tasks that any business does. AI-ready hardware, well, that just means new hardware now. I don't think there's any server, laptop, whatever, that you buy in the last year that doesn't say, this is for AI. This is AI. So, I mean, we can look at both of those always, but in general, yes, AI is driving modernization, but modernization is a good thing to be doing either way. So like I said, 52% of businesses said they're doing strategic AI initiatives, which, to put that in perspective, that's double what we saw in last year's survey. So that was a 2x growth. So that in 1 year, it went from 26% to 52%. So that's pretty impressive. And that's exactly what you'd expect if you've been following the trends from the last year. But you can see some signs that maybe we're not seeing the sort of stratospheric growth or continued growth in AI that you might expect, especially given the hype, especially given the irrational exuberance, maybe, bubble-type behavior that we're seeing in AI. So we're seeing a lot of businesses that are challenged by AI complexity, and you'll see this across some of our data in other areas if you attend some of the other sessions. Businesses don't have enough skill sets. Even the people who, I try to stay on top of AI stuff constantly, and I basically feel like I'm always 6 months behind. So I mean, it's hard for anybody to kind of overcome AI complexity. The other interesting thing we saw in this data is that only 42% of businesses are increasing their AI spend. So that means less than half. So again, a lot of technologies would kill for that. Edge would kill for 42% businesses increasing their spend on it. But again, given what we expect of AI, to say 58% of businesses are not going to increase or maybe even decrease their AI spend, that brings into perspective that there's a lot of businesses that started AI and maybe they're not seeing the returns right now, and they're not going to keep investing until they start seeing those returns or until they see some of the issues and lack of maturity that we definitely see with a lot of AI models right now start to resolve themselves. So, and you can also look at that in that businesses jumped in. There was an MIT study recently that said 95% of all AI projects failed. So that could be a lot of those businesses jumped in, did pilots, didn't see the return, and they're going to just either not spend or they're going to keep waiting. So AI is still top. It's still a key. Almost no technologies we have outside of like security and some other core areas see that kind of AI increase spend, but that's still lower than I think you'd expect, given the breathless hype around AI. So again, what are businesses spending on when it comes to IT technology? And again, if I have my two little devils, or angels or whatever, on my shoulder, I could say all of these are being done for AI. But businesses are upgrading their outdated IT infrastructure. There's a lot of reasons for this. You could be doing it for AI. You could be doing it because of Windows 11, like Windows 10 support ended, so you're just going to buy new systems to support Windows 11. We're seeing businesses increasing spend on cloud infrastructure. Again, you could look at this both ways. Yes, a lot of AI investment is being still done in the cloud, though if you go to the session tomorrow, or even if you went to the Dell one, you can see there's a lot of interest in moving some of that out of the cloud. But again, we expect to see increasing spend on cloud in general. All of our state of ITs have seen regular, strong cloud investments. IT services, again, 73%. And server refreshes. If you look at this data, 33% businesses recently did in the last few months a server refresh. 47% are planning to do in the next year. So you're looking like basically 80%
server refresh in the last few months in an 18-month window. And this can be looked at a lot of ways. It can be looked at AI. It can be looked at because of Windows 10. It could be because of the classic cycle. The last time we saw a huge increase in like IT hardware purchases was right in the middle of the pandemic, during the quarantine phase, and we're basically 5 years out from that. So it makes sense now that a lot of that infrastructure spend is aging, and businesses are replacing that. But like I said, AI is the #1 driver to modernize in all of our surveys in the last year, 2 years. When we ask businesses what is your #1 driver to improve, to modernize, to implement new systems, they always say AI. Now, interesting thing I would like to bring up, there was a session I did last year here, and we were talking about AI as a driver to modernization. And we had a Q&A, and some of the attendees said, well, my executive people said we need to do AI, and we just came back and said, oh yeah, well, to do AI, we need to improve all this other stuff. And they used AI sort of as an excuse to carry out other modernizations and improvements that they just needed to do anyways. And that's great, and Derek might say that that's dishonest, and I kind of agree in some way. But it's also kind of, I compare it to when I'm at a party or event that I just want to leave, and I say, sorry, I gotta go home and let the dogs out and feed them. I might be using that excuse, but it's also true. I do need to go home and let the dogs out and feed them. So it's also true with AI. Like maybe you might say, well, I have to do all this other modernization to do AI, and that is totally true. You're not going to have a successful AI implementation, especially if you're in that 52% doing real initiatives, if you're trying to do it on outdated servers, outdated storage, outdated networks. And we see that. We ask the businesses, what are you doing to support these AI initiatives, that 52%? And we saw that they were working to improve automation so they could take advantage of AI within automation. The 43% were increasing their storage capacity. If you were at the Dell keynote today, they talked about the importance of data. Almost any way you're doing AI, you're going to increase your data needs, you're going to increase your storage needs, you have to improve your data management and data access. So businesses need to improve that, and we see that in this data, that they're increasing storage and increasing their data capabilities. Network, a lot of people haven't really been investing in network, and that happens periodically also. And businesses that have been doing AI have been running into roadblocks with their networks. They've been running into performance issues, they've been running into capacity issues. And that's, if you're doing distributed AI, if you're doing a lot of these different, like if you're doing small models, you're doing inferencing, you are going to run into network issues. And we see that, and I've seen it in other surveys. A lot of businesses that are trying to do AI are now investing in improving their network capabilities. Yeah, go ahead, Derek.
Want me to weigh in on that?
Yeah.
Hey, the math nerd's waking up here. I'm going to make some math comments now.
We can even go back. That's right.
Right here. In the survey, we asked explicitly how much did you spend in total on IT, and then how did that break down into, I think, close to 60 different categories. So I did a little bit of analysis here on how that breaks down for AI. And what I did was I looked at the two categories that were explicitly about AI, AI software, either on-premise, that's one category, or cloud-based. So two categories of AI software. And I took that as I'm doing math stuff now, that's the numerator, okay? And then the denominator, that plus all the other areas of IT, computing, infrastructure, basically everything except the people. And if you look at that ratio, AI versus all IT, computing, infrastructure, I'm going to ask you to have to remember a couple numbers in your head now. The range is 0.6%, that's the 5th percentile, all the way up to 13.3%, that's the 95th percentile. The median is 2.7%. If you want to, some people like to look at just the middle 50% of the curve. The fancy word for that is the interquartile range, 25 to 75. That is 1.6 to 4.7, and again, the median is 2.7% of your total IT infrastructure. So I don't know if you think that's big or not. To Jim's point, though, you're going to multiply that because of all the other stuff, server, storage, networking. My personal estimate would be 2 to 4. Jim, what would you think would be?
You could potentially say up to 4 to 5, because
4 to
if
5
you're
even?
investing in all of these, you're doing server refreshes, you're improving your network, boosting storage. Yeah. You could see, but yeah, I love that point that the actual AI spend is under 3%, or at least the median.
Yeah. So something to think about, and I just explained some things, and now I don't have to explain it in my section later, so I saved a little time.
No, but thanks, Eric. And it's a great sort of like reality check. And we're constantly talking about AI here, but again, we're talking specifically, if we're just talking about the AI infrastructure, you're looking at 3%. Now, obviously, if we bring in servers and laptops that you're buying, like I said, you could increase that by 5%, 5x, basically. But again, then you're basically talking about most of your infrastructure spend. So I almost zoomed by that, so thanks for bringing So this is from the State of IT, where we asked what were your AI use cases. Again, in the session tomorrow, we'll be talking about some other specific IT use cases. But these are pretty interesting from the aggregate data. 46% are using it for optimizing troubleshooting software, which I like that above writing software, because I think it does well in that area as a former QA person. 42% are you doing sort of the classic Gen AI stuff. 42% automating tasks, as you'll see in a lot of our surveys. That is one of the key IT use cases. 40% are using it to detect data breaches, and 39%, 40% using it to streamline workflows. Now, Peter, the interesting thing is this changes when we look specifically at specific industries.
Yeah, it's important to look at outliers. So the software industry and the financial industry are leading the way in terms of AI adoption for many use cases. So 2/3 of organizations in the software industry are using it to design their software, and 56% are using it to write and optimize code, so higher than the 46% among other industries. And in financial services, half of businesses are using it for their risk assessments and to help with security. So they're at the forefront of adoption, so it's important to monitor those specific industries because they have more at stake in those use cases.
Yeah, and I feel like too, in those cases, especially when you look at the software industry, when you have the high level experience levels, there's probably less likely to do the pure coding, and those are often you'll see the best use case for using AI with software development. Right. Which is as an assistive tool as opposed to.
And we see that somewhat reflected in the BLS data I shared. So the demand for programmers is going a little bit down because some of the simpler coding tasks might be outsourced a little bit to AI, whereas the high-level design that software developers do, the demand for that will continue to grow.
Right. Let's talk about cybersecurity, shall we?
Yeah, I want to make sure Derek has enough time here.
There were 6 things that I wanted to cover. We'll see how many we can get to. I'm not going to go over that because I have a slide for each one, basically. My goal here is to try to give you context for some of the data points. For me, it's about number sense, having a number sense for things. You could call it numeracy if you want, like literacy. I think in general in our society, numeracy is kind of low. Not you people, of course, you're all good, so with respect to the 11% year over year, we basically had insights in this study through hundreds of respondents to about $2.5 billion worth of IT spending. That's a pretty healthy chunk, and it's growing next year. They said, well, it's about $3 billion roughly, so that's where we get the 11%. I thought you might be interested to know, well, how much is their revenue? And so we also asked them what's their top line revenue. And again, through all the respondents, about $250 billion worth of spend. So it's a pretty healthy chunk. It's not the whole market as a whole by any means. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember, Walmart just last year by itself was $650 billion. So it only takes a Walmart and an Amazon to sort of dwarf these numbers. But we have good insight overall. So there's that. I want to put it in context in this way. IT spend as a percentage of the revenue. That same idea that I gave you about the 5th% to the 95th%, I'm talking about the chart on the right now. It ranges from less than 1% across all the respondents to more than 40%, and the median right about 2%. That's a big shift, right? Some businesses are very IT intensive, and they'd be more towards that 40% of the curve. Others are less IT intensive, and they'd be towards that less than 1%. But 2% is the median, half are above and half are below. Another interesting thing about calibrating this is look at IT spend per employee per year. That's the chart on the left. And again, the idea that 5% to 95%, less than $100 per employee per year at the low end, all the way to more than $16,000 per employee at the high end. Do you see yourselves in there somewhere in that range? The median is about $1,000 per employee per year. And that interquartile one, the orange there, that's the middle 50% of the data, ranged from about $200 per employee per year to about $3,800. So again, if you can see yourself in there, that's my goal in trying to break this down a little bit for you in that way. Okay. Let's talk about IT budget increasers and decreasers. You heard a little bit about this already, but the number of increasers outnumber the decreasers by a ratio of about 3.5 to 1. So for every 3.5 people who increase, there's one company that has a decrease. If you do kind of a NPS style net change index, let me just explain briefly what that is. If everybody said yes, we're an increaser, that index would be plus 100%. If everybody said no, we're a decreaser, that would be minus 100%. So the net is, in this case, plus 57. Again, that's at 3.5 to 1 ratio. Calibration on that point is that the increasers, you look at the range of increases, 3.5 to 30, median 15%, that interquartile, middle 50% of the data, 9 to 20%. So that's the increasers amount. Notice that that's a little bit, that's pretty generous, right? But it's a little bit less than the decreasers. The decreasers got bigger. The interquartile range there is 10 to 30% with a median of 17.5%. In other words, if you're blessed to get an increase, you got more. And if you're cursed, I guess, to get a decrease, you got whacked to a higher degree. So it's a little bit, dare we say, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer? I don't know, guys, what you think about that. But that's what the data showed.
I think there's even more colorful ways to say it, but I'll leave those off.
This I find so fascinating. Our tech budget's viewed as adequate, and there's a big disconnect. I just want to tell you that the technical folks are basically in this idea of a net index. They're on the negative side, so more people thought, no, we don't have enough, than people who thought, yeah, we do have enough. Last year was even worse, by the way. Last year was minus 51%, which means 3 out of 4 people in the tech roles thought, no, we don't have an adequate budget. This year it's still negative. It's closer to almost even. But the senior leaders, the business leaders, their index is plus 26, a little bit higher than last year. So in other words, the people who hand out the money and sign the checks, they say, yeah, you got it plenty. You're doing fine. We're giving you enough. And the people who actually do the work to implement whatever the goals are saying, no, we really don't have enough. So to me, the important question here is for what do you do about that? How do you communicate? What things do you have to change in order to have conversations that'll get, we're all competing for resources, right? So you want to get the share of resources that you deserve, so you have to make a good business case, really, I think.
It'd be nice if somebody had an entire session about that tomorrow.
Yeah, there's a session tomorrow at 2 o'clock. I'll be leading that, and I'll try to give 45 minutes more detail on that. Yep. Which things are driving the year-over-year increases? Jim touched on this to some degree, but there's 5 sort of high-level buckets, and I'm pleased to say cybersecurity and compliance are right in the top 5, number 2, in fact. And not just from, we had a data breach or some kind of unplanned, outage. Those are the C and the A in the traditional CIA triad that cybersecurity know. If you don't know what it is, talk to somebody, you'll find out. Not just because you're compelled legally by regulatory compliance requirements to do it, but the highest one within the security and compliance bucket there is because it's an acknowledgement there's a risk. There's risk that's deemed to be unacceptably high. To me, that's really important because it's a bellwether that the industry and the profession is maturing in that regard. We're focused on risk, which is the reason we all exist, as opposed to just, there was a breach or we're compelled to by law. So that's a cool thing. I think it's good news. Here I did, hang on. Top 10 categories, and security was in there. I did the same kind of analysis I did with AI with Jim a minute ago, so I don't have to explain quite as much with you. Take cybersecurity categories as the numerator, divide by that plus all the IT computing infrastructure, not including people, as a denominator, and what's that ratio? It ranged from 2 2.7 to 31.7%, is it? The median of 13.3%. And the interquartile, that middle 50%, is 8.6 to, what is it? I can't read, 18.8. So what does that mean? You have $100 total that you're spending. How much of that are you going to spend on cybersecurity? How do you decide that? You could spend all $100 on cybersecurity and you'd probably go out of business because you're not serving any customers and do anything. You could choose to roll the dice and spend zero on cybersecurity, and maybe you won't go out of business. You get lucky, but there's a pretty good chance that you're going to have some kind of incident. It's going to cost you money, and some of that might actually result in going out of business. So there's a balancing act in there always. Where do you fall in between? You might be more risk averse, and therefore you'd spend more. You'd be on the higher side of that curve. You might be more risk accepting, or maybe just ignore the risk, which is the same as accepting, if you think about it. You'd be at the low end of that curve. But you have to choose. There's trade-offs and balances all the time when we talk about this stuff. And so I encourage you to think about three things here. There's a risk appetite. I just kind of covered that. What's your risk appetite or tolerance? How much are you willing to spend? Second one is affordability. You might want to spend more, but you just can't afford it. And the best analogy I can think of is when I was younger and my 3 children were small, and the life insurance policy for me as the main breadwinner in our little family was high. I might have wanted to have a multi-million-dollar policy to take care of my wife and kids should something happen to me, but I couldn't afford that, right? So my risk tolerance was low, but my affordability was high. The same thing can be true in cybersecurity. You might want to spend more, but you can't. So there's the affordability one. And there's also a third one, I think, which is ability to execute. You might have the risk appetite, you might have the budget, but you might not have the ability to implement that right now. So think about those three things as part of the trade-offs. We'll cover that a little bit tomorrow, too. And then I think, lastly here, I'll just leave you with this. If you're going to make the business case and get more budget, you have to talk about what is the actual value to the business. You can't just say, hey, the boogeyman is coming again. Here's the latest thing. This year's AI, give us more money. It doesn't work like that. It might work a little bit, but you can't get away with it. So there's 3 buckets I found. Here they are, the 3 buckets of business value. The first one is managing the downside risk to an acceptable level. We've covered that quite a bit just now. But I want you to think about this point. That is called cost avoidance. If you invest that money, the reason you're doing it is not because you expect some return. There's no such thing as an ROI on that kind of investment. You invest it because you hope nothing bad happens, and if, in fact, if you're successful, nothing happens, and so there's no return. It's cost avoidance, which is good. You're buying down the risk. Think of it that way. The middle bucket here is actually I save money. I save time or money. I can have this staff support more people. They can do more things with the staff I have. I have more value, or I cost less to do certain things. That's actual save time and money, and the CFOs love that. They love that. It's real. That's tangible stuff. So cost savings is different than cost avoidance, and we need to be clear on that when we communicate to people. The third one is just maybe overlooked, but it's enabling upside opportunities. That's a positive thing. We want to grow. You want to introduce a new product or enter a new market or that kind of thing. The thing I'd ask you to think about here is those things are not certain, which means they are risks. Yeah, they're uncertain, but that means they're risks. Just the same as downside risks. We don't really always talk about them as risks, but they are risks. And so the business leaders, they make risk decisions in that bucket day after flippant day. They understand that. And so we don't need to be afraid to talk to them in the language of risk because they know how to deal with that and make decisions in the face of uncertainty, which is what those are. They happen to be positive things and outcomes that we want, as opposed to the negative things that we don't want. But risk is risk all day long. So my only message here is think about the communication of these things. And when we talk about value, that's the way we get more budgets. And that's the path right there to do it. So I'll give it to you, Peter, to kind of help us wrap up.
All right, wrapping up, we'll just go around the horn one last time. Key takeaways. I know a lot of you want something actionable. So just to summarize my part, thank you very much for all of you who took the survey. This is really a reflection of what you told us. It's not our personal opinions, but after we looked at the data, we're just trying to share what you told us back with you and comparing it over previous years. From the IT career side, I think it goes back to the IT evolution theme. Technology is evolving, so the human side of IT has to evolve. We have to always keep learning in this industry. Overall, there's a positive outlook for everybody in this room, but you do need to evolve your skills. Know what's going to be in demand, know which roles are going to expected to increase in demand, and know what skills you need to have. And in these cases, cybersecurity is extremely important today, and maybe in a few years, AI is going to be extremely important. If you're looking for a job in the near future, AI might be important because the business leaders think it's very important today, even if you don't in an IT role. So hopefully some of these figures validated what you're doing today. Hopefully some of them opened your eyes to what other people are saying, but I hope you got value out of this presentation. I'll turn it over to Jim.
Yeah, just like our research for a long time has shown the value of IT modernization, of improving outdated systems. And I want to make a point here too. I'm not just talking about, our vendor friends in here would like you to buy their most new thing all the time, and that's fine, that's their job. But when you as an IT leader recognize that parts of your infrastructure are out of date, that they are a security problem, they are an integration problem, they are a problem to your goals, whether that's using AI or whatever, it's vital to take those steps to modernize. I mean, so that was my takeaway. We consistently see it from security standpoints, from technology goals, from business goals, that out-of-date infrastructures can become a problem. So, taking those steps to modernize pretty much always pays off across our research, and we've shown that for years and years.
And for me, I guess it boils down to everything I told you, but I'll boil it down to the R word. You want to guess what the R word is? There's actually two. Risk, also relevance. Risk is the reason we're here, so if you want to stay relevant to the business folks and get those budgets, risk is the way you stay relevant. If you don't, you be less relevant, and we'll all be relegated to the back office and the server rooms and things like that. And be like on the original Star Trek, you'll be down in the engine room on your backs trying to fix the dilithium crystals or whatever. But we can also be up on the bridge. So take all the expertise and the subject matter experts that the companies rely upon you for, and it's not a but or an or, it's an and address the needs of the business. Be a trusted advisor to the business. That's how the relevant part of the R word comes in. That's my thought.
Dilithium crystals.
Dilithium crystals, baby.
All right.
Kyber crystals makes lightsabers.
Thank you very much for your time. All three of us have sessions tomorrow, so please check us out, and I'll see you around Spiceworks. Thank you again.
All right. We are back live. Peter, Jim, Derek, great job again. If I didn't tell you on the day, since we were all on roller skates that day, but awesome session as always. I'm never surprised that the State of IT is always a hot session. So thank you again for sharing that today.
Yeah. So we had a great chat. I enjoyed seeing all the questions coming through and being able to interact live with everybody. And I'm glad some of you got value out of it.
For sure. You guys are great at this. So Jim, we'll start with you as we wrap up here. Is there any final words that you want to say about the State of IT 2026, whether it's stuff that's upcoming or anything you want to plug or anything people should look out for?
Yeah, well, as you saw, a lot of my session was about AI. I try to say it's not all about AI, but we did just complete a new survey. There's an article up on SpiceWorks, just I think this week, highlighting some of the findings and the focus on practical AI. So if people want to look that up, I'll drop the link into the chat in a minute. And yeah, so look out for more stuff from that survey, because this was our first one that kind of looked at, we've moved past pilot. So over the last year, we feel like there's been enough real implementations of AI to actually look how businesses are using it, as opposed to previously everything was about what do you plan to do with AI. So there's some good findings there, and I hope people check it out.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for post that in the chat. That would be great. Derek, how about you? Any final lasting words you'd like to share?
Only maybe similar to Jim, that we have so much more to talk about and share from this State of IT project, and those will continue to come out. So what we shared at SpiceWorld is pretty awesome, but there's a lot more to come, and I think my next article is due tomorrow, so as soon as we're done here, I'll be trying to finish that up so it's done. But there'll be
The data
lots
digs
more
never-
to come over the next several weeks. So
The data
look
digs
forward.
never stop. Yeah, 2026 is going to be a big year. So, Peter, how about you? Any last words you want to share?
Yeah, sure. I want to reiterate what Jim and Derek said. We are going to continue publishing findings from the State of IT and all of our other studies. So please go to community.spiceworks.com and spiceworks.com to find all of that. Another thing I want to talk about is the overall theme of SpiceWorld. So we were all talking about the IT evolution, and of course, AI is a big part of that, but it's not the only part of that. I think one of the main themes that kept coming up over and over and over at SpiceWorld is that the human touch and the human element is paramount in IT. I mean, AI is getting all the headlines, but it's really the people behind the technology that really matter in this day and age. And we don't want robots to do everything for us, right? People need to connect with each other. And that's the whole reason that SpiceWorks exists, the whole reason that we put SpiceWorld together. So as technology evolves, of course, you are going to have to keep your skills current. That career section that I spoke to speaks to this. A lot of things are getting automated, but humans are always going to be needed in IT. We just need to evolve our careers as the technology evolves. So if you want to stay current on technology and you want to talk about the human element about being in IT, the community is a perfect place to do that. So we encourage everybody to not only read our articles, but also connect with your fellow IT professionals and your peers in the community, because that's what we're all about. It's bringing people together and helping you level up your career.
Very, very well put, Peter. Again, yeah, SpiceWorks is all about community. So if you happen to be watching this and you're not a member, community.spiceworks.com, sign up. You can't beat the price. It's free, and you can interface with your fellow humans and talk about AI rather than worry about AI taking your job, because that's what we are here for. So yes, we should go with the Springsteen, the human touch. That should be the theme song when we log in. So good call. So thank you guys for joining. And a quick plug, we are actually going to be live in the community this Friday. If you want to join us for our SpiceWorks holiday live stream spectacular. It's a read-only Friday. As we know, the holiday's coming up, so do not touch that code. I don't care how many backups you have, and just come hang out with us. So other than that, thank you so much to Peter, Jim, and Derek for sharing their knowledge today. And thank you, the viewer, for joining us. We will be back very soon this Friday with another live stream. So don't forget to tech yourself before you wreck yourself, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.